This is Darth Matthew, host of the Star Wars Generations and Superhero Ethics podcast, and I find your lack of membership disturbing. You can free yourself from the ads of those rebel scum by going to theethicalpanda.com and clicking join for $5 a month, $55 a year. No more ads, only the episodes, just as the Emperor intended.
Now let's go back in time a little bit to talk about the Clone Wars, Season 4, Episodes 11 through 13. It is myself and Erin. Erin, how are we doing on this fine day?
I'm doing well. Had a nice chill day so far. Worked out a little bit. Last week I chose some, not last week, but last season I chose some what I consider to be dark episodes about, hunting sentient beings. And for this season, I've chose something almost even darker, which is the rise of a slave empire.
I would say this is even darker because we have the rise of a slave empire, which is one thing. We have Obi-Wan allowing himself to be tortured and then being tortured. Someone finally figures out the best way to torture Jedi, which is to hurt other people as a result of the Jedi's actions.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Anakin doing that thing that you sometimes see in like undercover cop movies where like the cop could prevent someone's death, but if they do, it would give away their undercoverness. And so they don't, and someone literally dies. And that happens on like R-rated cop movies. I wasn't expecting it in the theoretical kids show of the Clone War, but there we have it from Anakin.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is expecting suicide from the Clone Wars either, but that I'm assuming that might be the situation you're talking about.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so let's give you a quick summary. So we start with the planet of Kyros, which is another one of these planets like we saw in season 1 that is just not wanting to be involved in the war. It is neutral, and people from the Republic are trying to convince them to join. They don't want any part of that. But then, of course, Count Dooku shows up and says, yeah, no, you're under our protection now. Important is that this is a planet that's a colony of people from this is a colony of Tagrutans, which is the same race that Ahsoka is from. So that's obviously going to be a factor. And in the course of the episode, Dooku shows up along with someone I don't think we've seen before, but is going to become important, a Zygerrian. And we learned that the Zygerrians were a race that used to have the biggest slave empire in the galaxy before the Jedi defeated them. And a lot of them are still angry about that, and that's a thing. And basically, they're trying to set a trap for the Jedi where they will kill all these hostages that they have unless the Jedi surrender. And there's shenanigans, there's fighting, and there's a lot of Anakin realizing, I don't like slavers. And Obi-Wan having to like literally warn Ahsoka, Anakin's going to be kind of emotionally unstable. You need to keep an eye on him. And so there's fighting there. And then there's a 3-episode arc. I'm not going to separate which episode is which, because we're just kind of doing a brief summary. But the original battle is, of course, won by our friends. They get rid of all the bombs. They rescue the colonists. But it turns out the colonists have all been taken away. And they've been taken back to the Zygerrian's home planet. Zygerrian's home planet. And so now Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka have to kind of go undercover to try and get everyone back. And they go undercover with Anakin pretending to be a slaver and Ahsoka pretending to be a slave. Obi-Wan pretending to be a slave at first, but he's not very good at it, and so he gets captured as a slave. Everyone realizes that he is Obi-Wan Kenobi, but they don't know Anakin, which makes me think that like Count Dooku should print up wanted posters. Like
for real.
This is like the 5th time they've gone undercover. Come on, people.
I do want to mention Rex is also there undercover.
Yes, Rex is also there undercover. Yeah. Thank you very much.
That will become important later.
Yep. And Ahsoka, it kind of makes sense for her to be a slave because she is Togrutan, which is the race that all the other slaves that they have at the moment are. And the Zygerrians want to rebuild their great slave empire. And in order to kind of really go undercover, Anakin has to meet with the queen and has to flirt like crazy with her. And there's all this dynamics about like, well, are you going to be my slave? Are you who's slave? That's a little adult for a kid's show, but fair enough. People got to learn somewhere. And most interestingly, though, the queen has this really interesting idea of, well, what is slavery? And because what she's kind of saying is, well, but aren't you and Obi-Wan slaves of the Jedi? Aren't the Jedi slaves to their masters? And aren't the Jedi slaves to the Republic? And then later, when Dooku starts bossing her around, she feels like a slave to him. And so she's kind of putting these doubts, particularly in Anakin's mind, about who is he controlled by? Is he free? Stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that I think she has like a legit point. She's a slaver. She's horrible. And the literal slavery that she's undergoing with the Togruitans is
and trying to justify.
Yeah, is not the same as like having a boss or having a master in the Jedi sense, but it raises some interesting questions. But of course, Anakin has to betray her, and they have a great fight where Anakin does a little nod to R2-D2, and R2-D2 starts shooting out lightsabers like they're lollipops, one for all three of our heroes. Big fight, and eventually all of the Togruitans are rescued, in part by the great thought and sort of quick thinking and instincts of Ahsoka. And she gets recognized by her own people in a way that I think is particularly meaningful as a hero for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, where do you want to start?
Oh boy. Well, let's start with the first episode where we see Darts Dinar. He is the first Zygerrian slaver we come into contact with. And, they arrive on the planet. And I don't remember how he reaches out, but he calms them and is like, hey, let's discuss surrender. Because they destroyed all the droids, which there's suspiciously few droids.
Right.
So Obi-Wan goes up to his castle or whatever the fuck to talk to him. And then we get a scene that turns into another classic Obi-Wan getting the shit beat out of him as a distraction.
Yeah. Basically, the Zygerrian is like, well, you're gonna Zygerrian is like, you're gonna surrender to me, right? And Obi-Wan's like, well, but what if we do this ritual combat of your people? And then at first you're wondering why the Zygerrian is kicking Obi-Wan's butt until it quickly becomes apparent Obi-Wan is just taking punches as a way to stall, because he's giving Anakin time to go find all these bombs. And it's just kind of hilarious as the Zygerrian's like, wahaha, we can defeat the Jedi all over again. And Obi-Wan's just like rolling his eyes like, come on.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. He's like playing it up, throwing himself a little further, like, ah. But yeah, so basically Dinar threatens them, saying there are bombs throughout this entire city, this entire planet, and you don't know where the colonizers are, but I'm gonna start blowing shit up. So they defuse all the bombs. Turns out there were no colonists there. There are no biosigns on this planet other than the clones and the Jedi. And so, they end up capturing Darts Dinar, I believe, at the end of the first episode. And they're like, okay, well, now we got to find these other people. So then they head off to Zygerria. And that's where they're disguised as the slavers.
Yeah.
And Anakin has this story about like, oh, I killed this random guy, and I know the queen hates him. Therefore, like, I'm going to get her to like me. Bruno Denturi. Yeah. He says like, oh, I'm here to see the queen. Someone's like, do you have an appointment? He's like, no, but I have something to tell her about Bruno Denturi. She brings him up there, assuming she can now kill him because she hates Bruno. He then tells her, oh, I killed Bruno Denturi.
Right.
But he failed to mention how beautiful you are. Now suddenly my boy has game. After being a weird stalker, heavy breather creeper throughout the entire prequels, horrible at flirting, to somehow like winning this girl's heart in a matter of like 30 minutes.
Yeah, Matt Latner can flirt. Hayden Christensen, not so much. And
I guess not.
I'm kidding. It's the direction and the dialogue, but still. Yeah. This version of Anakin does not hate sand. He doesn't have any feelings on sand because all of his feelings are on the queen. Yes. And it is during this exchange that at some point, her kind of handmaiden slave attacks her and is stopped. And then
Anakin stops her.
Yes, thank you. And so the queen is saying, well, okay, now you're going to have to be punished. You're going to have to be tortured. And you can see Anakin like wrestling with what should he do? Should he rescue her? Should he stop this? And they're, kind of up on this throne area that's up on a big high tower. And the slave throws herself off the tower. And it is clear that Anakin kind of rushes to the edge. And we know that he has stopped people from falling to their death many times before, that he clearly knows he can do it, that he clearly thinks about it. He decides not to. He lets her die.
Mhm.
What did you think about that?
I guess I've never really thought about like him slyly trying to catch her and gently put her on the ground so that the queen doesn't notice. I
Mhm.
definitely think that is within his abilities. I always saw it as like he was formulating a plan to try and help this slave because the queen says, "Oh, I'll have to send you back to programming."
Right.
And this slave is like, "I won't go. You can't send me back there. I can't do that again." And she jumps. And so I've never actually thought about like, oh, Anakin could have saved her from that fall and he didn't.
Mhm.
I think that it is an interesting point. For me as a viewer, I'm like, well, yeah, they obviously have to stay undercover. Like he's going to
Yeah.
have to do some shady shit if they're trying to break out an entire population, entire colony of people. If you go like Obi-Wan and you try to save the first person you see, you're going to end up a slave as fast as you can say, "My name's Anakin Skywalker." Like you're going to get fucked. So I do understand where he's coming from, and I think it is a very important step into us kind of recognizing his dark side.
Mhm.
And even later, I believe he force chokes somebody in this
Yeah.
arc.
Yeah, while trying to get information from them about where the colonists are.
Yeah. So he is very much on a bit of a dark side kick in these
Mhm.
episodes. And you can see him being like, okay, well, I have this mission. My mission is not to save this random Twi'lek servant.
Right. And
And
I
so
actually
that's
realized
collateral damage.
he force choked someone in the first episode because it was
Okay.
when he was first dealing with the slavers, and you can see his anger at the slavers coming out. And
Right.
Ahsoka is the one who goes, "Master, master, like calm down here."
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I'm with you. Like I think when I see this again in like a cop movie or something like that, my thought is always like, well, that's a pretty dark thing to do, but I get why you have to kind of morally compromise yourself. I think the point of the Jedi is that they can't do that. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to protect life at all costs, even if sometimes that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a great way of showing Anakin, like Anakin's in a situation where the Jedi Code would not achieve the goal that I think we can agree is a worthwhile goal to try and achieve. And so he's willing to not do what the Jedi Code teaches him to do, which in this moment makes him a hero, but
Mhm.
also makes him like, I think kind of the idea is that like, yeah, maybe a normal person can make a moral compromise like that. Jedi can't make moral compromises. They have to be strict like that, or else they're just going to fall to the dark side. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
And I think that shows us overall how well Palpatine's plan of war is working because Jedi were never meant to be undercover. They were never meant to be saboteurs. They were
Yeah.
never meant to have to lie to get a job done.
Right.
And so this entire war has set up situations where now it is become somewhat normalized. Yes, Jedi do go undercover. Yes, sometimes you have to make the hard choice. And I feel like that Anakin just takes that plus a little
Yeah.
in a lot of these later seasons. And in these episodes, like we are very used to seeing bad guys be disarmed, they cut their gun, they bop them in
Mhm.
the head, whatever. Or maybe a limb lost if they're a really bad guy.
Mhm.
Anakin impaled so many random Zygerrians in this arc.
Yeah.
Like everyone. And we even see a moment where he impales someone and then walks away, and Ahsoka kind of looks back at the body like that and kind of shakes her head like that wasn't necessary. Like
Mhm.
that's not the way we usually do this.
Yeah. No, you're right. And then later by the last episode, granted it's more of a like get a killer be killed situation, but Ahsoka's also killing a lot of Zygerrians too.
Yeah.
And we talked way back when we got started about how making it a battle against droids kind of allows them to not deal with the idea that they're killing living beings because technically they're not. Here though they are. And I think
Mhm.
that's a very intentional choice again. And granted, it's like they are living sentient beings. They're also slavers. They're kind of like the worst of the worst you could have.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like this galaxy's version of Nazis.
Mhm.
So it's kind of pretty okay to kill them, but still, you're right. I think that definitely, Ahsoka is using lethal violence when she has to.
Mhm.
Anakin's using it because he hates these people, and
Yeah.
to me, I think that again, you're right. It shows how Palpatine is setting this up, and also how the Jedi are not thinking about that, because
They're not clocking it.
you could have sent any. There's no reason why it has to be these particular Jedi on this mission. Ahsoka maybe because she's Togrutan, but there's other Togrutan Jedi, and
Yeah.
certainly there are lots and lots of other Jedi whose mothers weren't sold into slavery, and who aren't going to have
Yeah.
this personal attachment to this issue.
Who weren't literally born into slavery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What else with these episodes do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about
Let's start with the people on the planet, because kind of like the situation with the Scottish lemurs back from the first season, who I just absolutely love.
Mhm.
We once again get this group of people who want to be neutral, who want to be peaceful, but then they get invaded by the separatists, and then at the end they're saying, well, I guess we'll join the Republic.
Yeah.
I don't love that. What's your take on it?
No, it's I mean, it's the way that this entire show goes, because this entire show is war propaganda.
Yeah.
And him being like, well, I guess he literally says, like, we are a peaceful people. None of us know how to fight. This event has shattered us.
Yeah.
We will not recover for, I think he says, generations.
Yeah.
Like, this has greatly damaged our people. And so, like, as a younger viewer watching it, of course it makes sense. These people have been, like, very hurt. They're now very vulnerable. Of course they want to join with somebody. But it's kind of interesting, because I don't remember. Do the lemurs join the Republic?
I think they like say they want to start the conversation.
Okay, yeah. And I feel like the lemurs, like, yes, their lives were at stake. Their village was being attacked. Their planet was in jeopardy. But these people have literally been tortured.
Right.
Like, electrocuted. The way they try, when the Zygerrian realizes that he cannot get the slaves out, he's not going to win, he electrifies all the walls and starts pulling the floor away to kill these people. Like, these are some dire situations, and I can totally understand this governor being like, I don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
I don't know how to possibly help my people. These people rescued us and they have resources. I can understand that kind of political decision coming over a moral decision.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree from, like, an adult standpoint, it's really sad to see that happen, because we know not all separatists are bad guys. We know this war is manipulated by Palpatine, and neutral world should be, recognized and left alone. But that's not the story we're being told through the show.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes a lot of sense, not only through kind of the thoughts or justifications I offered for the governor's thought process itself, but just for the show to be like, well, it has a happy ending. We showed you all this really dark shit.
Mm-hmm.
And now at least these people are protected by the Republic.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you said, that it's war propaganda, is what's really important, because, like, and we've talked about this before, this idea that this show really wants some high-level thought from the audience about how the point of view of there isn't sort of a universal point of view of the show of, like, the people who win are therefore the good guys, or that therefore everything is right. Because I think within the world of the show, yes, it makes total sense that the colonists would decide we're better with the Republic. It makes total sense that the Republic would be happy about it. I think, though, we in the audience are supposed to be a little uncomfortable with it. We're supposed to think, yeah, it's part of Palpatine's plan again, is that peace is not an option. Neutrality is not an option. Yeah. The angry goose is angry. And sorry, peace is not an option thing. But, like, it just, to me, it's brilliant, when you kind of realize just how deep the analysis is going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. That's why I wanted to talk about these episodes, because I feel like there is so much conversation to be had around, like, the morals and the politics. But also I feel like, as so many of these arcs will, coming towards the end of the show, it contributes so much to Anakin's fall.
Yeah.
And obviously Ahsoka's my favorite character. I want to see more about her people. I've always been so interested by the physical features that differ between the Togrutas from Sheely, which
Mhm.
are more like Ahsoka and Shakti, versus these Togrutans who their horns are less uniform. You know, they
Right.
might stick out a little bit. The men, older men even, have very short leku. And a lot of the women, they have this almost like broken heart shape. Like
Mhm.
if you took two halves of a heart and kind of put them upside down, that's the way their what do they call it? Montrals is the name of the
Mhm.
horns. That's the way those are shaped. And their leku are very long and they come down directly down the middle of their chest and their torso. And some of them even have little clips keeping the leku in front. And I just like, oops. I've always loved that difference, but also had a lot of questions about it.
Mhm.
And like whether this has something to do with their culture and the fact that if we are talking evolutionary wise, like the Togrutans on Sheely, as we see in Tales of the Jedi and as we're told in literature, are very carnivorous people. They're hunters. They have pointy
Right.
teeth. They live in a dangerous world where they need to fight to survive. And what it sounds like, these other people, they don't have as many of those things. He said there's not a fighter among us. Therefore, there probably aren't a lot of predators to them on that planet.
Right.
So their bodies and everything could be developing in a different way to suit what they need. And
Yeah.
I always thought that was very interesting. And I looked for it this episode. None of them had pointy teeth, but also neither does Ahsoka. The Clone Wars kind of left that out of the character build.
Mhm.
But I like to imagine that they would not have especially sharp teeth, and Shakti and Ahsoka are designed and meant to have
Right.
pointy teeth and like pronounced what do they call them? Like a carnivore teeth?
Oh, canines.
Canine, thank you.
Yeah. No, I think this makes a lot of sense. And here again, this is why I love having different perspectives, because I would not notice this in the slightest. And but I think it really helps tell more of the story because, you know, people do develop in different ways. That's evolutionary, that's socially, culturally. Um, I imagine part of that is, as you said, like the different kind of situations they're in. Also, we don't know like the how much each of those different populations has intermixed with other populations. Like I think my
Yeah.
understanding is that the home planet is much more like exclusively to Gruten, whereas this colony might be more mixed in some ways. Certainly, we know that by the time they become slaves, there are, as you said, what's the other race?
Zygerrian?
No, the ones that are always slave girls with the
Oh,
also like
Twi'leks.
that. There's Twi'leks in there, around. So yeah, no, it's really interesting to think about. Let's talk about Obi-Wan because so he's willing. I think it's a very intentional choice that they show he is willing to endure pain himself.
Mhm.
And you're right, he's probably acting somewhat. He's probably using Jedi mind tricks to, dull his own pain sensations and make sure that, maybe push the guy's boot a bit when he's about to kick him so that it doesn't kick his kidney, it kicks him in the side or whatever.
I mean, still being thrown down so hard that you shatter the floor, that was pretty.
Yeah, I mean,
That would hurt.
yeah, but the point is, even with all
But
that,
carry on.
he's in a lot of pain himself. And the point is that there's no limit to that. He is willing to endure any amount of pain for others, to protect others. And the Zygerrians figure out, okay, we can't get to him that way. What we can do is say, unless you obey, we're going to cause pain to other people. We're going to torture them. We're going to kill them.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's diabolical, but it works. And there's a part of me that's kind of surprised they haven't figured out. Like, it's kind of the same trick that we've already talked about it, although it happens later in the season, but that Maul and Savage used to get Obi-Wan to go find them at the end of the season. How do you think about that in terms of what the Zygerrians are willing to do to get Obi-Wan to comply?
I mean, I think it makes total sense. Like you said, I'm a little surprised nobody has thought of this before, but also the way this war has played out, the Jedi are mainly around other Jedi and clones.
Yeah.
And of course, they would not want to see their clones hurt. I mean, according to literature, some Jedi could care less. But in general, it's not the same as a civilian being hurt.
Right.
It's very different. I think it makes perfect sense for the Zygerrians. Like, they don't even really question it that much. Like in the third episode, when Obi-Wan and all of the slaves from Kiros are sent to Kadavo, which is the planet where they do the programming.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet this guy, Agrus. He's a guy who just like has a chair. He floats around in a chair like a lazy man. And he's like the warden, I guess you could say, of this facility.
Mm-hmm.
And right when they get off the ship, he already has a bunch of Togrutans lined up. And they all have little circles under them. And I don't even know if he said anything to Obi-Wan yet, but he presses a button and the floor collapses from like 6 of them and they just fall to their death. And they even like panned down and showed us these people falling into nothingness. Again, super dark. And then he says to Obi-Wan, now you know I'm serious. You see what the consequences are. You're going to listen.
Right. Yeah, it's quite literally I'm going to kill a hostage so you know I'm serious, and then I'll keep killing hostages unless you do what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes perfect sense for people who their entire empire is built on breaking other people's will and breaking other people's morals and resolve. So it makes total sense to me that they would come to this conclusion faster. But yeah, it's a really dark concept to put in a children's show.
And I think it also really helps to show it highlights what Anakin is doing and how different it is, because I think, Anakin is willing to let someone die for the kind of, as he understands it, I'm going to let one person die so I can save hundreds or thousands. Obi-Wan, I think if he just, tried to fight the guy, he's going to have a much better chance of rescuing these hundreds or thousands of people, but he doesn't do it. He allows himself to become captured and enslaved himself. Now, granted, he's putting his trust in Anakin, and it turns out that's right. But I think that's here part of the point, is that Obi-Wan will back down in that kind of in the face of that kind of threat, where I think Anakin would just tell himself, oh, I can rescue everybody, or that it's okay to let some of the people die to rescue this much larger group of people. And, again, it's like, I'm not saying that Anakin's wrong, but it's not what a Jedi is supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, as an action hero, he fits into the mold perfectly. But that's not what a Jedi is supposed to be.
Right. Exactly. So, and that brings up the other thing about these episodes that really struck me, and that I think plays so much into these, like, to me, if someone wanted to say, like, can you show me why Anakin fell? These 3, if I had to pick only like 12 or 10 Clone War episodes, these 3 are definitely in there.
Yeah.
Because, in The Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon tells Anakin, I'm not here to rescue slaves. I can't, free your mother. And we can argue about whether he could or not, but we understand, like, that's a very particular, desperate situation with everything that's going on in Naboo. But we know for 10 years after that, like, the Clone Wars haven't started. Qui-Gon is just running around the galaxy with Obi-Wan and Anakin. Theoretically, they could go and free slaves on Tatooine. But that's not what the Jedi are supposed to.
Qui-Gon's dead at that point, right? He dies in
no, I'm sorry, right, not Qui-Gon, certainly. But
Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah. And I think what we've always been told is that's not what Jedi are supposed to do, is they're not supposed to just go and randomly fight slavery. And so for me, it was really interesting learning, but actually they did. That at some point in the not so distant past, the Jedi took on this slaver empire and totally wiped it out and freed all these slaves. Did that kind of trigger something for you about, like, oh, this must make it even harder for Anakin to think, like, why wouldn't these people then go and, like, deal with slavery on Tatooine?
That's a great point. I have not considered that. I mean, I think to an extent, yes, they did fight slavers here, and yes, they destroyed that programming center. The queen is dead, all that, but they didn't destroy the full empire.
Well, I'm talking about, because remember, the Zygerrians keep saying that the past great Zygerrian slave empire, the Jedi had destroyed it.
You're right. Okay, yeah, I had kind of forgotten that. Yeah, no, that is very interesting. Yeah, that it's like, okay, there was already a slaving empire, and if you went so hard at it, you destroyed it. Why aren't we doing the same to the Hutt cartel who employs slaves?
Right. Yeah, if there's the new version of the Zygerrians, why not go after them? So,
but Jabba's connected, and Jabba has pull, so
yeah, that's where we go. So yeah, it's just, to me, there's so many pieces that are all kind of telling their own little story, but that all add up to this whole of the Republic the Republic looks a lot more corrupt, and the Jedi are somewhat captured by it, and all of it.
Yeah.
All right. I know you always write down some quotes and points you want to talk about, so let's take us through our list.
Yes. Well, my first one was just Obi-Wan getting his shit rocked. Already talked about that. Then I wanted to obviously bring up the Twi'lek who was so desperate that she ended her own life. I said kids show for real after that.
That was literally the moment where I texted you and went, wow, these episodes are dark.
Yeah, it was funny because I had finished watching them. And you just go, Jesus, I forgot how dark these episodes are. And I was like, for the second season in a row, I've done it. Yep. I've chosen some disturbing episodes. I feel like a little monster, but also they're important. Like we've already discussed, they give a lot to the story overall. One interaction that I liked is that Count Dooku decides to go to Zygerria because he tells the queen, kill the fucking Jedi.
Right.
And she's like, I don't know, like I kind of like Anakin, like he's helpful, like I kind of like manipulate him to being my bodyguard by threatening to kill his friends. And Dooku's like, fuck you, I'll do it myself. So he rolls up to Zygerria and he comms over to, or holograph, whatever, over to the planet Kadavo, where Agrus picks up a call and puts him on with like the enslaved Obi-Wan. And Count Dooku goes, Obi-Wan, in chains once again, I see. And Obi-Wan says, Count Dooku, still afraid to get your hands dirty. And I just like, I love a little callback to Attack of the Clones, even though it's a not so loved movie, but I just thought that was a fun little callback to their first initial conflict where Obi-Wan went into Attack of the Clones believing that Count Dooku was just a political figure and not knowing that he had turned to the dark side. And so I kind of liked that callback and that furthering of their kind of a relationship. And I also, I found myself thinking a lot about like, I wonder what Obi-Wan is thinking, knowing that his master came from that man.
Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of his grandmaster in that regard.
Yeah.
And like, how does that make you question everything?
Yeah. Like how was Qui-Gon so good and so right? And this is Dooku.
Right.
And even further, Obi-Wan would have grown up with Dooku being a Jedi. He didn't leave the Jedi Order until after the Phantom Menace. He left the Jedi Order after Qui-Gon was, in his eyes, unreasonably allowed to die. And so I oftentimes, when Obi-Wan and Count Dooku kind of have this, when they interact, I think about that a little bit and how I wonder how that makes Obi-Wan feel or even how that makes Dooku feel, because he left the Jedi Order because of how much he cared for Qui-Gon.
Right.
He clearly cared for Qui-Gon, and if he cared for Qui-Gon so much up until his death, he had to have interacted with Padawan Obi-Wan quite a bit. And so I always love them being a little sassy at each other because it's like.
Now, I will say that a lot of the history you're talking about comes from Darth Plagueis, which is, I think, a novel that you and I both love, and we've talked about on this podcast. It is in the Legends canon, the Tales of the Dark Side, or what was it, Tales of the Jedi that had Dooku's
It was background? Tales of the Jedi with Dooku.
It changed the order of things. It had Dooku leave before Qui-Gon dies.
Oh, it did?
It did, which I really don't like because I like the interpretation
I didn't remember that.
You have so much better. But just for anyone who's listening and confused, that has been changed.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely had that mixed up. I thought Tales of the Jedi was what I was talking about.
Right. But certainly when this TV show came out, that was still very much what the canon idea was.
Yeah, that was still a canonized narrative.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's really true there. And I'll say one of the other novels that I love so much that I think is like it's either one of the last of the Legends or one of the first of the Disney canon, but is just a book called Kenobi, which is about him on Tatooine while Luke is growing up. And it goes into a lot of his thoughts about like, how did Anakin fall? How did Dooku fall? How did, all this kind of stuff, and how did all this affect each other? So it is fun just to see those little callbacks there.
Yeah, it's a book I still haven't read, but I've heard so many good things. I'll have to put an Audible credit toward it at some point.
It's definitely worthwhile.
But the last thing, I can't believe we are at the end of the episode and this didn't come up yet. Remember I said Rex was there and he will become important to the story? He is! Because he is on Kadavo with Obi-Wan. They're both captured. Anakin starts to attack. They realize they have the upper hand. The slaver, Agrus, goes and starts, he electrifies the walls, starts opening up the floor, and then destroys the command center. And Obi-Wan takes the electroshock collars off of himself and Rex. He's like, okay, bud, let's go. And Rex is like, I've been fucking waiting. And we see Rex go head to head with Zygerrians, which already proved by Obi-Wan's fight with Dinar, Zygerrians are strong as fuck.
Yeah, they really are.
They might be up there near Trandoshans. Like, they are a beastly species. And Rex is just going after these bitches like it's his day job, because I guess it is his day job and his night job and his whole life job. But then
he takes
everyone's
his work
been
home
defeated. He takes his work home, unfortunately. Yeah. Everyone is defeated except for Agrus, and he's sitting in his chair and he says to Obi-Wan, like, ha, a Jedi would never harm an unarmed man. And Obi-Wan kind of smirks and looks over his shoulder, and Rex is standing in the back of the room with a spear, and he launches it straight through the guy's chest. And the original, I'm no Jedi.
Yeah. So good. It's so good. And it's
so good.
It's a call to a lot of things that are going to happen a lot in the future. It's kind of a reminder of, like, there are times where you need a soldier, not a Jedi. And here's what a soldier can do. And also, because it is just so influential on so much sci-fi fantasy stuff, I think it's a callback to Lord of the Rings. And, I'm a Nazgul, I cannot be slain by man. I am no man. Eowyn reveal. So no, it was a beautiful moment. I, of course, was thinking about it. I'm never going to step on a Rex moment if you're on the podcast. I'm always going to let you bring it up. So you get to have that moment. But yeah, overall, I think these are 3 great episodes. I'm really glad you picked them. I think it gives us a lot to kind of think about. And to me, I feel like this is the period of time where, after the first few seasons, the show was established enough that kind of like LucasArts was kind of, whoever was supposed to be in charge of keeping it a kids show, it feels to me like they were now like, okay, we trust you. You got it.
They were backseat parenting.
Yeah. Now Filoni and all them are like, all right, we're just going to do our own thing. Yeah. We love it.
Yeah. And I mean, these come right after Umbara. Like, this season, you can't fucking breathe.
Yeah.
It is just hard hitter after hard hitter. Because right after this, is an episode with like Ahsoka and Lux, but then shortly after this is the Maul and Savage episodes. Like, there are some heavy things going on.
Where again, we see innocent people killed just to get the attention of the Jedi. So
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for suggesting these episodes to our fans. Thank you all so much for listening. As always, write in, let us know what you think. Keep tuning back in. We will be doing a couple more of these episodes in February, but then once March starts, we are getting ready for Maul. So we're going to do some look backs at some of our favorite Maul things, talk about where Maul is, get you a real primer going, and then it will be time for Maul Shadow Lord. Until then, thank you all so much for listening. On behalf of myself, Erin, Alex, who cannot be here, fuck ice.
Excluding Alex. Matthew and I fuck ice. Alex is part of the press, so he doesn't have an official opinion.
Alex cannot be a part of that. Exactly. So,
but I say fuck ice, and I say I am no Jedi.
There you go.